In this demo, we're going to show you how you can use Turbot Guardrails to automatically remediate misconfigurations with preventative runtime controls. So as an example, if we wanted to automatically remediate bucket versioning in S3, we can start with looking at all the different objectives that Turbot Guardrails supports to handle bucket versioning. And so in some cases for preventative controls, we might want to protect the bucket versioning configuration from being altered. And so we can do that with SCP and other type of preventive controls. Other cases, we might want to protect that with lifecycle policies or ensuring bucket versioning has MFA associated. But in this case, I'm just looking to ensure that bucket versioning is always applied on S3 buckets, regardless if a bucket was created with or without versioning. If any changes happen to that configuration, I want Guardrails to detect and correct any drift on versioning within runtime. So in this case, I already have these preventative controls set up where it's already checking whether versioning is enabled or not, and it has a runtime guardrail to automatically enforce it. And that policy is simply set within Turbot Guardrails, where there's already over 10,000 plus policies out of the box across Amazon, Azure, Google, Kubernetes, GitHub, ServiceNow, etc. And policies are often stated whether you want to skip or ignore this particular policy. So I could say for S3 bucket versioning, I want to skip this across X part of my organization structure. I can also just check in just alert only if it's enabled or disabled in runtime, or I can take action to alert and auto remediate. And so in this case, I could set this to enforce enabled, meaning that it will always enforce that this particular configuration is enabled. There's precedence rules that I can set, there's annotations, and as well as I can expire this decision. And so within Turbot Guardrails policy engine, you could set time to live policies. You can also set exceptions, time-based exceptions, a lot of different nuance that you could set within this policy itself. Policies are very straightforward to simply configure and set. We also do have more of an advanced mode, which we call calculated policies, where you can actually set conditional logic. So let's say in this circumstance, I wanted to only enforce versioning on buckets without a very specific tag, or any type of conditional detail coming from the cloud provider configurations, from your audit activity trail, from a third-party data source. All of this could be used as context and logic on whether or not a policy gets enforced or what type of policy gets enforced. There's a whole calculated and conditional policy language that you can set on policies, but simply you can just select and apply. In this case, I already have bucket versioning enforced as a policy. I'm allowing for buckets to be created without versioning enabled. And this gives the flexibility for developers just to simply create buckets as they see fit, whether through the Amazon console, whether through the CLI, Terraform, CloudFormation, etc. It doesn't matter how your application teams deploy, Turbot Guardrails is going to listen to the events behind the scenes, and it's going to react based on changes, whether it's a creation, an update, or a delete. So in this case, a developer created a bucket, but didn't have the versioning enabled at the start, nor did it have tags and other type of configurations that you might care about. Guardrails could be used literally thousands of controls to help you always stay compliant at all times, whether you're preventing it from being introduced or allowing for it and correcting underneath the developer. This bucket was automatically created, and if I wanted to visualize, that's already within Turbot Guardrails and Discover. So this Goliath Demo 5 bucket is already discovered. I could see all the configuration details, which is also part of full text search. I can see the controls that are overlaid. So I actually have a few controls beyond just versioning enabled. I also have a tagging control and a public access block control enabled. And there's a heap of other things that I could also set for runtime preventions. Versioning is showing green here because Turbot Guardrails actually already took action. So here it shows that Bob created the bucket. It then set off these controls to check if versioning, public access, tagging, if those are in good compliant state. It automatically then updated the tags and set versioning to enable. It then discovered that change and then automatically closed the alarms. And so this happens within seconds across the environment to discover, to alert, to act, to then rediscover, and then to close the alarms. If I was to go back into AWS and just hit the refresh button, we'll see here that bucket versioning is now enabled and other things like the tags are set. This is on a creation of new resource, maybe didn't have certain configurations, but of course you can have existing resources that are misconfigured or become misconfigured over time, and Guardrails will react in the same way. And so here, if I have a very specific tag that I want to enforce, so one of the tagging standards is to enforce that it has the department key, and it automatically brought down the context that this particular account sits in the payments organization. It automatically pulled down also the bucket name, and it calculated what the cost center was. It pulled from the audit trail of that Bob created the particular bucket. And so a lot of context can be used through those calculated policies to automatically enforce these type of settings. Here, if I was to change the department from payments to, let's just say, marketing, and then I save that, here I'm Bob, and as a super user, I might not be restricted from editing tags. Right? This is a power user type of action. I should be able to configure the tags as I see fit. That doesn't mean that I'm going to know or care if they're misconfigured. And so this is where Turbot Guardrails can be flexible to maybe allow a bad configuration to occur, but then clean it up in real time so that you always stay compliant. Back into the activity page, right, we could see that whole process happen very quickly. We can see that Bob changed that value from payments to marketing. And with that change that was introduced, it then said, well, tags were okay. Now they're in alarm state. So what then Turbot did was updated the tags, saw that the tags were updated by the Turbot role by replacing marketing back to payments. And because of that, then that alarm shifted back to okay. This is that quick runtime prevention controls working and always protecting your resources. Regardless of who's changing and what's changing in your environment, you're always in a good compliant state. Now, if you're interested in seeing this in action in your environment, we do offer free trials and happy to get you started. Reach out to us at turbot.com/start.